Okay, now that we're all set up, let's move on to the actual simulations. So simulation number one, which we'll make right here, we'll call it laser main sim. And what I mean by that is it's of type laser. It's gonna be the main one. It's not gonna be the secondary blast, which we'll touch on later. And it's the sim, and so the sim color, I like to make purple. So there it is. So now we got our three main categories of stuff. So the simulation, such as it is again going to be firing particles, which will represent our lasers flying through the air. They're going to be firing particles at the path here. I'm also going to turn off these boxes. I don't want to see them right now. So let's see, what do we need? What are the ingredients that we're going to need for this simulation? And we'll bring them in here. We're basically going to draw from all those helpers above. So the first thing we're going to need is the path itself, the thing that it's actually firing at. So let's go grab that here. So say the path, I'll get the out specifically. We don't need to do into this object because there was no actual transform on it, but sometimes it makes you feel better to put it on anyway, just in case. So get path. So there it is. Now the path looks like this. And, you know, it's one long curve, but I only want to fire at a specific part of it at any given moment. So we can use this thing called the carve. And the carve will allow us to chop up this path. So with just the U, I can truncate the first part. With the end, I can truncate the back part. And by putting them together, you can basically just get 1 point out of that. Now, even better is you can actually just say explicitly, instead of cutting, go to extract. And the extraction now says, just get this point along the path. Now, the points on here are pretty uneven because it's just determined by how fast you moved your hand. You can see there's a whole bunch of them bunched up here at the front. If you like, you can drop a resample down to make them nice and even. 0.1 is fine. We're going to be seeing again that 0.1 number a lot because that's pretty much like the closest, like the good amount of detail that we want to see here. So anyway, resample it. Carving will still work the same way. And we want this to be a moving target over the shot, so we need to animate this thing. I'm just going to say, I'm going to Alt left click on the first frame here, so it's 0. On the last frame, I'm going to say 1. Alt click again. And I want to make sure that it's not this curvy looking thing, which it is by default. Change this to linear. So now we've got a point that moves along a curve over the course of the shot. If we click on this clock here, it'll be actually tied to the frames per second rather than playing it as fast as it can. So we've got our target. This is essentially our target. Now our source is going to be that launcher, the launcher sphere. So I'm going to say object merge again. Go get it. Launcher. So say get launcher. So we have the 2 points now. So there's the launcher. Make sure that the transform is being applied. And we're basically going to make a vector, you know, a line, essentially, that goes from here to here. And that's pretty easy to do. All we're going to need to do is drop it down to Wrangler. And we'll do the Wrangler, we'll do this on the launcher itself. We'll basically set the velocity on this guy itself. Because again, that's where the points, the particle system is going to be sourced from. So of course there is no velocity or normal for that matter right now. It's just 1 point. And again, because this sphere is a primitive type, which if we go back to it, here, it's set to primitive, so it's only 1 point. It's a point and a radius, essentially. As opposed to if we made it a actual bunch of polygons, now it's a bunch of polygons making up a sphere. In this mode, though, right now, it's just 1 point at the center. So anyway, we've got our Wrangler here, and we'll call this like set velocity. And the velocity, I'll feed this target point in here, and we're going to use that. We're going to use this first input relative to this guy. So all we're going to have to say here is the velocity at v. You can put v, meaning vector, at v if you want, but Houdini recognizes v as a normal type that it knows is going to be a velocity, as it knows it's going to be a vector, rather. So the velocity is the point position of the first input, which remember is the second input, because the first input is input 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. So the first input, meaning the target. So give me the point attribute from the first input. The attribute's name is P, the position, and it's point 0 that I want to get it from. Now there is only one point in that geometry stream, so point 0 is fine. And instead of just getting the point, though, I want to know the vector between that and me. So at P meaning my own position. So now we have a velocity vector. If we look at this thing here, and I press the, this is the vector, or the velocity mode, you can see it in there. If we want to see a little easier, I can put an add here and say delete geometry but keep the points. So now we can see it a little bit better. That's the green one here. So you can see it moving. It's going back and forth as it's trying to keep up with the target. You know, this thing moving here. So suffice to say, we have velocity on that now.